Praise the Lord. Welcome back to the analysis of the book of Job. We have started the analysis of the book of Job in the previous class. Hope you remember the total number of chapters and the division of the book. There are 42 chapters in the book of Job, which we have divided into three parts. Chapter 1 and 2 constituting a historical prologue. Then chapter 3 to chapter 42 and 6 is the poem. And then finally chapter 42, 7 to 17 is a historical epilogue. And in the two previous classes we have traveled through the historical introduction or prologue, where we have seen two important personalities. One is Job and the other one Satan. We have also analyzed the strategies of Satan and what we have to basically know about Satan in the previous class. Today in this class we will get into the poem, the second unit of the division. Chapter 3 to 42 and 6 is the poem. Let us analyze that. Now it is actually, this part of the book is actually a dialogue between Job and his friends, which can be split up into the following. Chapter 3 is Job's lamentation. We have seen that Job fell from prosperity to poverty and affliction, and he started lamenting about it because of the trials. His lamentation is seen in chapter 3. Then chapter 4 to 14 is a triad. Triad means unity of three people. Three friends of Job came together in unity to argue with Job. The names of the three people, three friends are Eliphaz, Bildad and Zophar. So chapter 4 to 14 is the first triad between Job and his three friends, namely Eliphaz, Bildad and Zophar. Chapter 4 to 7 is what Eliphaz was talking, and 8 to 10 Bildad talking, and 11 to 14 Zophar's arguments. Then as we travel forward, chapter 15 to 21 is the second triad between Job and his three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad and Zophar. Eliphaz talking between 15 and 17, Bildad between 18 and 19, and Zophar between 20 and 21. Then chapter 22 to 37 is the third triad between Job and his three friends. But this time Eliphaz, Bildad argued for the first time, and then Zophar was replaced by another friend, Elihu. Eliphaz was talking in 22 to 24 chapters, and Bildad was talking between 25 and 31, and Zophar stopped talking, and his place was taken by Elihu, who was talking in chapters 32 to 37. And finally, we see the intervention of God, that is in chapter 38. So as you travel through chapter 38 to 41, we finally see the intervention of God to close the dialogue. So this is the poem actually. Now we are not going to take every word and analyze it, but let's look into the findings of the dialogue of these three friends with Job. Now, Eliphaz was the first person to talk, and Eliphaz entered into a dialogue with Job for 3 times, and these arguments were basically based on experience and wisdom, which you can read in chapters 4, 5, 22, etc. Now some of the arguments are the following. When you read chapter 4 and 8, Eliphaz argued, "As I have observed, those who plow evil and those who sow trouble reap it," which simply means that you are plowing evil and you are a wicked person. Chapter 22 and 5 makes it very clear, "Is not your wickedness great? Are not your sins endless?" So he was establishing that Job was sinning. He was a wicked person, and that was a reason for his suffering and trials. And his conclusion was that the reason for Job's suffering was his sin, which is beautifully brought out in chapter 22. Kindly go through chapter 22 at least 5 to 9 and verse 23. I'll read 22-23 for you. If you return to the Almighty, you will be restored. If you return to the Almighty, that means you are now far away from the Almighty, you are a wicked person, you are a sinner, and repent and come back to the Lord. If you come back from your wickedness and your evil and get back to the Almighty, then you will be restored. You will get healing. So his argument, Eliphaz was arguing based on wisdom that Job was passing through this trial just because he was a sinner. And there are so many people in the world who think like that. All suffering, all sickness is the result of sin. That is not true. Let's wait for what God is going to tell you. Let's go forward. The second person to argue, or second friend of Job who entered into a dialogue was Bildad. Bildad also entered into a dialogue for 3 times, and he based his arguments on tradition. Bildad argued, and I can give you one verse, chapter 8 and 8. Bildad argued, ask the former generation and find out what their fathers learned. So ask the former generation and their fathers. So he is banging on, he is focusing attention on tradition. And based on tradition, he argued that, or he concluded that Job was a hypocrite, and his hypocrisy was the reason for his suffering. Chapter 8 and 6 beautifully brings it out. Chapter 8 and 6, if you are pure and upright, that means you are not pure and upright. If you are pure and upright, even now he will rouse. So when you are pure and upright, God will come up for you. So he is stating that you are not a pure person, you are not an upright person, you are a hypocrite. So that was the second argument of the second friend. Now the third friend, Sofer, argued 2 times with Job, and his arguments were based on assumptions. Chapter 11, chapter 20, etc. bring it out. And he was arguing that, basing his arguments on assumption that there is no way to know the will of God. He concluded that we are not able to find out the will of God, which is wrong, you know. Chapter 20, 4 and 5. Chapter 20 and 5 actually reads like this. The mirth of the wicked is brief. The joy of the godless lasts but a moment. So here again, Sofer is arguing that you are a wicked person, you are a godless person. But in the first chapter, we have seen that he was not a godless person, he was not a wicked person, he was not a sinner, he was a perfect person. But against that, Sofer, Bildad and Eliphaz tried to establish the fact that he was a sinner, he was a hypocrite, and we cannot know the will of God, etc. But then comes Elihu, the fourth person. He was talking only one time, and he expresses the humble, mature opinion of the youth. He started talking in chapter 32. 32 and 10 reads like this. Listen to me, I too will tell you what I know. See, very humble person, and he is arguing with wisdom. Listen to me, I too will tell you what I know. That means I don't know everything, but what I know, I'll tell you. And he continued his argument, and he told Job he was sinning because he was suffering, or his suffering was leading him into sinning. But again, he drew attention of Job into certain other things. 33 and 12. God is greater than man. That's a good statement. God is greater than man, and God is the wisest person. So we cannot understand the wisdom and the way in which God is working. He is greater than man. And in 33 and 14, Elihu pointed out, God does speak. God does speak, though man may not perceive it. See, God will speak, but man may not perceive it. And how does God speak? God speaks in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on men, as they slumber in their beds. So while people are sleeping on their beds, and when they are not too awake, God speaks through a dream or a vision, very many other ways. So he was concluding that wait for an answer from God. In the midst of your trials and afflictions, instead of jumping into conclusions like you are a sinner or you are a hypocrite, wait on God and wait to see what God is going to tell you, because God is wiser than man, as Elihu pointed out. Now to all these friends, Job gave his answers. The answers of Job to his friends are seen, and he talked 3 times. Chapter 6, chapter 12, 13, 19, 21, 23 and 24 contain. These chapters contain the answer that was given by Job to his friends. And the most important important points of his answer can be brought out in a nutshell. Chapter 6 and 25 reads like this. Job is asking his friends, what do your arguments prove? You have been arguing, but what do your arguments prove? That means you are not able to bring out the real reason. 12 and 3, I have a mind as well as you. I am not inferior to you. I have a mind as well as you people have, and I am not inferior to you. Then 13 and 3, I desire to speak to the Almighty, which simply means that I don't want to talk to you because you are not helping me. You are only pointing your fingers at me and telling me that you are a sinner, etc. I desire to speak to the Almighty. 13 and 4, you are worthless physicians, all of you. So that's his finding. You are all worthless physicians, all of you. All the people, all the friends who were talking with Job were useless, worthless physicians. Then in 13:15, Job told, though he slay me, yet will I hope in him. I will keep on trusting in God. Let him kill me. Even though God is going to kill me, yet still I will put my hope in him, because he can bring back a dead person. He is almighty. He can do anything, And in chapter 19, 25 and 26, he again stated, I know my Redeemer lives. I know my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand upon the earth, and after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes. How my heart yearns within me. So he was desiring to see God, and God coming as a Redeemer to uplift him from his afflictions and his suffering. He was waiting on the Lord. Instead of finding excuses, instead of arguing, he was waiting on the Lord, and he believed that the Redeemer will come and redeem him out of his affliction. In 23 and 10, he told his friends, but he knows the way that I take. God knows the way I take. You people do not know, but God knows which way I am going. Whether I am a wicked person, I am a sinner, or I am a perfect person, everything God knows. And he continued to say, when he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. So this is only testing. And when the testing is over, I will come forth as pure gold, because gold becomes more glorious once it is tested through the fire, So it is only a test. It's only an affliction. And after the test, I will come forth more glorious as gold. And 23:13, Job again replied, he does whatever he pleases. See, he is allowing God to do whatever he wants to do. God will do whatever he wants to do, and let us bow to his will. And in 23:14, many such plans he still has in store. Don't think that you know all the plans of God. God has more plans in store, and at the appropriate time, God will reveal all those things. So Job answered his friends that we do not know all the plans of God. Don't just continue your arguments. Probably we can read Proverbs 10 and 19 to join with Job. In Proverbs 10 and 19 we read, in the multitude of words there is every possibility of sin. Just because you are opening your mouth and arguing, there is every possibility that you will sin. He who holds his tongue is wise. So hold your tongue. Don't talk too much. but wait on the Lord, because God has hundreds of plans, thousands of plans in store, and He will reveal His plans at the appropriate time. So this is the way Job answered the friends who came to argue with him. And finally what happened is, Job was actually broken by suffering. Job was broken by suffering. Chapter 16, 12 to 14 makes it very clear. Job says, He has shattered me and crushed me. God shattered him, crushed him. And why God broke him down? He was melted. Chapter 23, 10 says, He has tested me. Tested means He has melted me, broken me and melted me, and He has made me soft, softened me. Chapter 19, 21 and 23, 16 makes it very clear. In 19:21 we read, God has struck me, and 23:16, God has made my heart faint. The Almighty has terrified me. So God did certain things in the life of Job, broken him, melted him, made him very soft, softened him, and finally he was transformed into a new person. So this was the process that God was doing, which the friends of Job did not understand. So God intervened finally. I told you that God intervened in chapter 38. 38 and 2, God intervened and talked once. God made it very clear that Job is not just the ordinary. So when we think about Job and when we analyze cases, we must remember that there are special cases. All people are not just the ordinary, you know. So Job was not just the ordinary, but he was a special case. Read chapter 38, 1 to 18, and then 19 to 38, then 38, 39, and 39 to 30, and chapter 40 to 42. There you can see God speaking, and God is constantly asking, tell me if you understand. Tell me if you understand. Do you know the laws of heaven? So God is telling them, you tell me if you understand. He cites several things, and God is asking, do you know the laws of heaven? It's a serious question, you know. We don't know the laws of heaven, but we think that we know the laws of heaven. So God told them that this is a special case, and you cannot find out the reason by arguing. So this is the way God intervened and brought things to a close. So this is the poem. You read the poem again with this outline, this analysis, and you will get to know all the meaning. And finally, the third part of Job is chapter 42, 7 to 17. Chapter 42, 7 to 17, which is the historical epilogue or the conclusion of the poem. Now what actually happens is, in 42 and 7, Job's integrity was proved, because God repeatedly said, my servant Job, my servant Job. Job is still my servant. God constantly repeated it, so his integrity was proved. Then when you read chapter 42, 8 and 9, Job's friends who came to argue were rebuked. They were rebuked by God. My servant Job will pray for you. So God asked Job to pray for the friends who came to argue, so they were rebuked. And thirdly, 42 and 10, chapter 42 and 10, Job's trial came to an end. Job prayed for his friends, and God made Job prosper, and God forgave the wrong arguments of his friends. And 42:11 says that Job's family was restored, and 42:12 to 17, Job was back in prosperity and blessings. So this is the historical epilogue or the conclusion. Now, to conclude the study or the analysis of Job, as a result of the trial, what actually happened is Job was transformed, Job was vindicated, and Job was restored. Job was transformed. That means the Lord accepted Job. He became more glorious, just like gold passing through fire and becoming more glorious. Job was accepted as God's servant. 42, 8 and 9 brings it out beautifully. Then Job was vindicated, or he was justified. His case was upheld, and God said, my servant Job, several times. Read 42, 8 and 9, we can see God calling my servant Job repeatedly. Thirdly, Job was restored, 42 and 10. Job's captivity was turned into a great blessing, and Job got twice as much as he had before. Now, what are we supposed to learn from Job? For our learning, that every godly sufferer, there are so many people who are suffering in life, and at the beginning of the study, the analysis of Job, we have stated that there are people who are in bed, who are suffering for long periods of time. Such godly sufferers, let them rest in the Lord and patiently wait for Him. Fret not for thyself. As Psalm 37 says, Psalm 37 and 7, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret when men succeed in their ways. 37 and 8 reads like this, refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret, it leads only to evil. Be still, wait patiently for God. Then you can add Psalm 46 and 10 to this. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among nations. I will be exalted in the earth. So when trials and testings come, we must patiently wait on God. Don't think that it is a punishment from God. All trials are not punishments from God. It is for our education. It's for our training. You just think about an athlete or a soldier. An athlete passes through stringent, strict discipline. That discipline is not punishment, It is equipping him for the coming meet. Also think about a soldier under strict discipline. Training and trials are there, but that is not punishment, but it's only part of his training. So it is to make him ready for the race, and it is to make him ready for the war. So Christ is ever preparing you and me, or us, for a race that is set before us. A race is set before us, and He is equipping us. And it's beautifully said in Hebrews chapter 12, 1 and 2. Let us conclude the study of Job by reading these verses. Hebrews chapter 12, 1 and 2. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, and run the race patiently. I have read it from NIV Bible. So let us fix our eyes on Jesus. He is the author and perfecter, or the finisher, or our faith, and we are supposed to run the race patiently as Job did. Let us also patiently wait on the Lord, fix our eyes on God, on Jesus Christ, and run the race. May God bless you. Thank you for your listening.